Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Noah. Welcome back to another video on the channel. Before we start, I just want to say if you guys enjoy this kind of content, then leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Yeah, and in the comments down below, let me know what is your favorite team that you've used on Pokemon, or what was your first team that you used on Pokemon Sword and Shield. Any kind of team that you have that you really enjoyed using, let me know in the comments down below. This video is going to be a bit of a different one. I'm going to show you guys how I kind of go about building some of the teams that I have, especially the more competitive ones and less of the ones that I throw together at the last second. I'll show you how I make those too, but that'll be pretty quickly at the end. So first off, how I make these more, I guess, advanced teams is I come to this website. It's play.pokemonshowdown.com. The link for all of these websites will be down in the description. I come here, and this website is an excellent place to build lots of Pokemon teams, and it has a bunch of different formats. As you can see, you can do random battles. These are a bunch of singles tiers for Smogon, which is something that I might be interested in playing in the future. Right now I've been normally playing VGC 2021, which is the standard format for the actual Sword and Shield video games. VGC 2021, or there used to be right here where it says Battle Stadium singles. There used to be Battle Stadium doubles, which is essentially the same thing, but I don't see it in here. So, yeah, this is where I go. I go to VGC 2021, and then I come in here. I click Team Builder right here, and I click New Team, or I'm just going to use this one here that I already have. And then I change the format to VGC 2021. You can build old teams too. You can build teams for VGC 2020. You can build teams for VGC 2019 and 2018 here, 2017. Is that as far back as it goes? I think so. Black and white, two doubles. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think it goes back past that. Oh, VGC 2016 is here as well, which is pretty cool. But I think that's it. VGC 2016 is the last one. But yeah, you can go back and build teams for those metagames as well. But this is where I go for the current format. For Sword and Shield, this is VGC 2021. It's the current rule set. And in this rule set, all legendary Pokemon can be used except for what I would call the box art legendaries. They're called restricted legendaries by Pokemon. It's your Kyurems, your Reshirams, Zekrams from like Black and White, your Rayquazas, your Dialgas, Palkias, your, I don't know, for this generation, your Zamazentas and Zacians and Eternatus, they're all banned. But every other legendary Pokemon is fine, such as, we'll say, Landorus, or one of my personal favorites, Cresselia. Those are fine. One of the biggest Pokemon in the metagame right now is actually a legendary Pokemon from Sword and Shield, Galarian Moltres. You're not allowed to use, however, what Pokemon considers mythical Pokemon, and that's like Mew, that Celebi you can't use, Jirachi, Manaphy, those kinds of Pokemon. Later generations, Keldeo, what's the one? Zeraora, Marshadow, Magearna, you're not allowed to use any of them. But these ones you are allowed to use. So what I do first is I come into this team builder, and I kind of look at... I kind of come to it with an idea in mind of what I want to use. Mainly when I want to build a team, I either want to build a team around a specific Pokemon, or I just want to build a really strong team. And if I want to build a really strong team, I go to this second website, which is called Pikalytics.com. Again, the link will be in the description below. And here, as you can see on the left, it shows the usage rates for all the Pokemon. So Incineroar is the most used Pokemon in the metagame right now. I think Incineroar is really wicked strong. Oh, I don't want to go there. Okay. Incineroar is very, very strong as a defensive Pokemon. Fake Out, Flare Blitz are the two most used moves, and then Parting Shot's almost on everything. If you're not running Parting Shot, you're probably using an Assault Vest. The most used items, actually Shuka Berry is really, really high up there right now to give it that like ground resistance hit. Citrus and Figgy Berry are up there. There's actually not a lot of Assault Vest usage. 7% of people use Assault Vest, which is kind of crazy. Assault Vest used to be one of the main items used on Incineroar, but it's using Fake Out, Flare Blitz, Parting Shot, Taunt. That's kind of the set that I've been running recently on Showdown anyway. I've also used Darkest Lariat for a bit if you want a dark type attack. Snarl is also good as a dark type attack, and it lowers special attack as well, which is really strong. I think Snarl is a good alternative to Parting Shot. I wouldn't necessarily use them together. But yeah, as you can see, we can go down here on the left and just show the most used Pokemon. And so you can kind of see what everyone thinks is good and what everyone thinks isn't good. I don't know why there's a triangle in this Urshifu, but there is. Yeah, you can kind of go down here and see what people are using at the moment. I like to use Dusclops. It's only at 16% right now. Trick Room, Nightshade, Pain Sweat, Haze. That's kind of the standard set. This is the one I use. I don't think you can see this spreads. Not very often. But it's almost always running Eviolite. And it's almost always Frisk as well. But yeah, Dusclops is super bulky. But you can kind of see on here, if you want like a starting base for what's really, really popular right now, you can kind of use these Pokemon here. I like Zapdos for a while too because it's got really high special attack and decent speed. And you can give it a Life Orb and it just kind of smacks things as well.
So YouTube.
Okay. So yeah, so this is where I'll start. And for instance, I would take, okay, well, let's look at the top 3 supporting Pokemon in the game right now: Incineroar, Tapu Fini, and Rillaboom. I think a good place to start if you want a team build is using a Fire, Water, Grass core. So if I was going to build a really, really strong team, I would want a really good offensive Pokemon first. So Venusaur and Torkoal are kind of used together. And Glastrier and then like Porygon 2 or Dusclops are kind of used together. And that's because you want a Trick Room setter for Glastrier, which Porygon 2, as you can see, it almost always carries Recover and Trick Room. And Dusclops almost always carries it almost always carries Trick Room, 99.57%. So yeah, so Glastrier really wants to be operating under Trick Room with its base 30 speed stat right here. So yeah, as you can see, there are some really potent offensive Pokemon. But say I want to use Landorus, which can operate as both a supporting Pokemon. As you can see, it gets U-turn, it gets, well, it has the Intimidate ability, and it's got pretty good defensive stats. 89 HP is not bad, and then 90 defense with Intimidate is pretty strong, and 80 special defense is alright, and 91 speed is okay. So say I want to use Landorus as a supportive Pokemon. I can go and put him into Pokemon Showdown here, and honestly, I think we can stop here. We'll figure out the sets later. So say I want to use Landorus. Now we need to figure out what is Landorus weak to. Well, Landorus has a 4x weakness to Ice, being ground and flying type. It has... So we need to find a Pokemon that's pretty good against Ice. Well, Urshifu does pretty well against that because it's a fighting and dark type. However, the biggest Ice type threats in the game right now is Glastrier. So another thing we can do to help Landorus out is give Landorus a partner that gets Will-O-Wisp. So I like Dusclops as an option to Will-O-Wisp. I also really like Dragapult. So we'll throw Dragapult in, and I think Dragapult is a really good supportive Pokemon. I don't know if it's up here in usage. Yeah, it's a ways down the list now. It's at 8%, but as you can see, it's almost always carrying Will-O-Wisp. And the ones that are on here are either Colossal support, as you can see with Will-O-Wisp, and then Surf. Most of them are Surfing to activate Colossal's weakness policy and Steam Engine, or Screens or Breaking Swipe, or they're offensive with Phantom Force and Dragon Darts. It's kind of split between the two of those, and Fly. Some of them are running Dragon Dance, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, this is going to be more of a support Dragapult, and we will see here, not the teammates. As you can see, these are kind of like the normal teammates for Dragapult. You can see this sort of Colossal core with Incineroar, Rillaboom, Colossal, Urshifu, Rapid Strike. And Moltres, that's kind of like your normal Colossal core, I guess you could say. It's got some Celesteela played, which is pretty interesting. They normally carry Life Orb, but some of them carry Safety Goggles. I think mine, I like to carry... Light Clay is not bad, but I only generally run one screen. So I think Colbur Berry is actually a pretty interesting item because it halves damage from a super effective Dark type attack. So I think Colbur Berry is a very, very interesting item on Dragapult. It gives it a little bit more longevity. So we'll give it Will-O-Wisp. We'll also give it, well, here, we'll put Breaking Swipe in first because it's going to be more supportive. So those 3 moves I think are pretty standard on Dragapult. And we'll figure out the last move afterwards. But with this Landorus and Dragapult kind of combination, I think what we now want to do is figure out, do we want Landorus to be more supportive, or do we want it to be more offensive, or do we want it to be a mix of the two? And there's 3 kind of sets that you can run with Landorus. You can run Life Orb, because it has this super high base 145 attack and decent speed, and it gets flying type moves, which max flying kind of raises your speed once you use it. So Landorus actually becomes very offensive and very fast after a max airstream. So you can give it a life orb. That would be a very offensive style Landorus, and you'd probably give it something like Swords Dance just in case you really want to capitalize on an opportunity. You can Swords Dance, and then Landorus becomes incredibly strong. Another option you can run is Assault Vest, which is more of a supportive type because it makes Landorus super bulky with both Intimidate and Assault Vest, both its defense, like in theory, its defense would raise because of the Intimidate. So the opponent's attackers are going to be weakened because of Intimidate. So this 110 defense is essentially going to get buffed by 1.5 times. And that's what the Assault Vest does for its special defense. The special defense is 1.5 times. So it gets a lot of defensive buffs. And so a bulky Landorus Therian with, say, you would maybe run U-Turn on this one. And then Brick Break is not a bad option either. And you can still Dynamax it, so maybe Earthquake Fly is a good, a couple good options there. And this is a decent set as well. I think my favorite set to run on Landorus is this Choice Scarf set. Because then you still get the Intimidate and you can still U-Turn. But it's also really good against opposing Colossal because a Scarf Landorus with 157 actually outspeeds most Dragapult. Actually, it might outspeed all Dragapult, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, 157 times 1.5. Yeah, this will outspeed all, like, max speed Dragapult. So if you give it U-Turn, Earthquake, and then something like Fly, and probably not Fly. U-Turn, Earthquake, Rock Slide is a good one because if Rock Slide goes first, you have a 30% chance to flinch each opponent. So, and Landorus is most likely going to be going first with Choice Scarf. So U-Turn, Earthquake, Rock Slide, and then one more move. You can kind of pick from there. But I think Dragapult's a really good place to start as a support for Landorus. But Landorus is kind of offering a more supportive role here with the Scarf, which I think is pretty interesting. So we've got two support Pokemon, but we really need an offensive Pokemon. I like Dragapult's ability to, okay, let's look at Dragapult's moves. We have Acrobatics, Agility, Baton Pass, Body Slam, Curse. Nothing too great here. Psychic Fangs is a really good support move. I really like Psychic Fangs because it breaks screens. I think Psychic Fangs is a really good thing for Dragapult. Now, what we want to do with Dragapult is we don't want to invest fully in speed right now because let's take a look at Dragapult's base speed. It's 142. So what we need to do is we need to go to our last website, which is cerebi.net. Again, the link will be in the description. And we want to look. Well, again, let's look at real quick. Let's look at some of the popular Pokemon in the metagame. So Incineroar, 60 base speed, we outspeed that with Dragapult. Tapu Fini, base speed 85, we outspeed. Glastrier, obviously, we outspeed. Rillaboom 85. Regieleki's 200, so we're never gonna get near Regieleki, so we don't really need to worry about it. We really want to focus on stuff that like is close to our 142, and then slightly outspeed that. So let's go down here. Landorus is base 91. Zapdos is 100. Spectrier, this is a good one. So Spectrier has base 130 speed. That's pretty close to our 142. So what we can do is we can put Spectrier in here, and if we give it a, we'll see, we're coming up against a max speed Spectrier with a speed boosting nature. The maximum amount of speed that Spectrier can hit is 200. That's the most speed that Spectrier can have. So what we want to do is give our Dragapult just enough speed to outspeed that 200. So this is 201. And then we can throw the rest of these EVs where we would normally just dump into speed, but we don't need to be 213. We can drop it down to 201. So we just outspeed all these base 130 Pokemon. We outspeed all of these, and we get a few more EVs that we can put into either our defensive stats, or we can put it into our attacking stats if we so choose to do so. We can put it into offensive so that our Breaking Swipes and Psychic Fangs do more. I prefer, because this is more of a supporting Dragapult, I think something like this is a little bit better. Maybe not that. Yeah, 60 is good. And this comes to my next point. When you're team building, put the number of stats that you have in 5 different stats, or an even number, I guess I should say, not necessarily 5, but an even number. Don't put them in an even number, put them in an odd number, so 3 or 5. That's because if you, like here, like on Dragapult, for instance, we have, right now, all the stats, we have 0 remaining EVs, which are these stats here, and we have 6 60 special defense. By moving it from 0 to 4, or from moving it from 60 to 64 special defense, as you can see, this number here on the right, 103, does not change when we move it from 60 to 64. It stays the same. It stays at 103 no matter what. Unless we drop it down to 52, and then it goes down. But 60 and 64, there's no difference. So what we can do is we can leave it at 64, and we can put that extra 4 into attack, and this changes from 140 to 141. So we get an extra point by putting it in a different stat as opposed to the same one and it just staying, and this special defense stat just staying the same. So put the number of EVs you have into 5 different stats or 3 different stats as opposed to 4 and 2. Let's see. So now we've got a pretty good core. We have Dragapult as a support, Landers as a support. Now we need to think about, well, we kind of shut down offensive physical attackers with Intimidate. We've shut down offensive physical attackers with Breaking Swipe and Will-O-Wisp. What can we do to sort of have some offense from there? So what I would do is because we have so much defense against physical attackers, I would look at Pokemon with pretty high special defense that also have decent attacking stats. Cryogonal could be an interesting one at base 105, but it's 95 special attack's not incredible. Nihilego's a really good one. I think this could be really interesting. Base 103 speed is pretty good. It outspeeds a lot of base 100 Pokemon, which is really important. And it has really high special defense, but a really low defense. So if you pair it with either Landorus or Dragapult, Nihilego could be a really, really strong Pokemon. So let's say we'll give Nihilego a Life Orb, and we'll leave it as the Beast Boost ability. And say we can give it something like Power Gem, which is an 80 base power special rock move. We can give it Sludge Bomb, which is a 90 base power poison move, and then we can kind of go from there and kind of pick out a move that we want. So fairy type coverage is really good. I think Dazzling Gleam could be a really good choice for this Pokemon. I think Protect is pretty necessary on this, and I think Dazzling Gleam is good. So I think that's a pretty good set for Nihilego, and there's no need to have any fancy EVs like we did on Dragapult. There's no real reason to do this because as an offensive Pokemon, you just want as much speed as possible. Now, in theory, you could, for instance, say, okay, 103 is not the fastest, and generally, as we can see, Zapdos is at base 100. A lot of the Pokemon are sitting at base 100, more of the offensive Pokemon. But Kartana is actually at base 109, and there's a couple other Pokemon that are a bit weird speed stat. Thundurus is at 111, so, and then, as you can see, Nihilego is down here. It actually runs a lot of Power Herb, which is pretty interesting. But there's not a ton of Pokemon that are sitting at base 100 right now. So I think just giving it the maximum amount of speed possible is definitely not a bad thing. And the extra HP that you would put it into, so say we want to drop it down to, I think 167 is base 100. 168 speed is good, and like the extra... It's okay. I mean, there's no real reason to put an extra 2 points into HP. You're not really going to be living that much extra by putting your 2 points into HP as opposed to speed. So I think leaving Nihilego's speed as it is fine. So now we have our offensive Pokemon, but now we need to think about the fact that Nihilego is weak to ground types, which we have a ground immunity in Landorus, which is really nice. But I also think one of the most important cores to have in Pokemon is like a Fire, Water, Grass core. So how do we want to complement Nihilego, who is a special attacker, with a Fire, Water, and Grass Pokemon? And I think that's a good way to kind of round out the team. But I think another thing to consider is looking at the most used items on Pokemon. So Incineroar has berries, which is pretty common. I think Tapu Fini maybe has leftovers and Wiki Berry. However, I think some of the best items in the game are these ones, for offensive Pokemon, are these ones that you see on Glastrier. So Assault Vest, Life Orb, and Weakness Policy, I think, are 3 essential items for offensive Pokemon, or just Pokemon in general. So we have one. We have the Life Orb on Nihilego, and we have, yeah, so that's it. So we need to, I think on most teams, you're going to want to use this Assault Vest and this Weakness Policy as well. So we need an Assault Vest Pokemon, and one of the best Assault Vest Pokemon in the game right now is Rillaboom, which is a really, really good supportive grass-type Pokemon, and it covers for Nihilego's ground-type weakness because Rillaboom is a grass-type Pokemon, which is strong against ground. So we'll give Rillaboom the Assault Vest, and as you can see, if we go to Pikalytics again and we go to Rillaboom, its most used items are Choice Band and Assault Vest. And the moves it normally runs are Grassy Glide, U-Turn, Fake Out. These are for the Assault Vest ones. Wood Hammer is more used on the Choice Band variant. But we can use Grassy Glide, U-Turn, Fake Out, and I think a move of choice. I normally run Knockoff. That's a pretty solid Assault Vest set. So Grassy Glide, Fake Out, Knockoff, and U-Turn is normally the moves that I run. And it says Fast Physical Sweeper. I like to have my Rillaboom a bit bulkier, so I run something like this. With an adamant nature. This way, Rillaboom does a bunch of damage with Grassy Glide, and it still has a good chunk of health at 207 with base 100 HP. That's a pretty bulky Pokemon, especially with an Assault Vest. So, now that we have that, we want to have a Water and a Fire-type Pokemon, and we also want to be able to activate their weakness policies. So maybe I think at this point, we want to think about either Landorus's last move activating this weakness policy, or changing the Psychic Fangs on Dragapult activating this weakness policy. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put in Fire type and kind of look at the Pokemon that we could use as weakness policy Pokemon. I think Entei is a really good choice because it's pretty bulky. 115 HP is super high, and 100 speed is also really good. Colossal is obviously a really good one, but I don't really want to build a Colossal team right now because that's actually what I'm building for the Players Cup 3. Let's see. Yeah, let's use Entei. Let's use weakness policy Entei. So we'll give Entei a weakness policy. Perfect. And we'll give it inner focus. This way it cannot be intimidated or flinched, which is really strong. With Entei's weakness policy, we want to run Protect, and I think you always want to run on Entei Sacred Fire. It's an 100 base power, 95 accuracy fire type move. It's ridiculously strong. I think another move, and then from there we can kind of just look at physical moves and kind of choose some. Extreme Speed's really good to just kind of clean stuff up. And I think Iron Head or Stomping Tantrum are good alternative options because Max Quake boosts your special defense, which isn't incredibly strong on Entei. So I think, actually I think that might be the one I go for here. Yeah, you could use Iron Head as well to boost this physical defense, but I think Stomping Tantrum might be a bit better on Entei. So there we go. And I think what I want to do now is give Dragapult a move that activates Entei's weakness policy. So I could either, well, or I could do Landorus. So I have two options here. I can either give Landorus Bulldoze, which is going to lower everything's speed, which isn't ideal because Entei is not the fastest at 250, at 167, as we were talking about base 100 earlier. It's not super fast. And Bulldoze, I already have Earthquake, so I really don't want to be using Bulldoze, I don't think. So let's look if there's any other moves that are strong against fire types on Entei, or on not Entei's, on Landorus's sort of move set. Weather Ball, Attract. Brutal Swing is a really good one for activating weakness policies because it hits all the Pokemon. It's similar to Surf, but Entei is not super affected by Brutal Swing. Let's see, Imprison, Leer, Mudshot, Payback, Rock Throw. Rock Throw could be an interesting one. So Landorus doesn't really get too much here. I think I want to throw Brick Break on here and give my Dragapult Surf. Similar to a Colossal team, but Entei is just going to be the recipient of the weakness policy instead. So now what we can do is we can look at water types and we can figure out what water type we want and how we want to use it. So I think Urshifu Rapid Strike is a really good option here because we can run a Focus Sash on it, which is another really good item. And we can just kind of run a standard set with Aqua Jets. Here, we'll go over here and we'll look at Urshifu Water and kind of find out what sets it's running right now. Oh, here it is, Urshifu Rapid Strike, which is actually really, really high in usage. It's got good stats, as you can see. Special attack doesn't really matter, but the special defense is a bit low, which is why it normally runs Focus Sash 90% of the time. And as you can see, almost all of them run Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet, and Detect. That's pretty normal. And the ones that don't run Detect run Protect, which is... You almost always want to run Detect over Protect because you can get imprisoned with Protect. So let's go ahead and give it that moveset. Aqua Jet, Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Detect. And I think this is a pretty good shell of a team. We have a Scarf Landorus that's really good for pivoting. It has U-Turn. We have a Dragapult that can take hits from dark types and activate Entei's weakness policy. We have a Life Orb Nihilego, which is faster than base 100 Pokemon. We have a Rillaboom and we can also protect an Earthquake with Landorus and Nihilego, which is really strong. We have Assault Vest Rillaboom to take hits and to kind of pivot in and out, and Fake Out's really strong. We have Entei, which is a weakness policy Pokemon, and its 115 base attack is pretty strong, especially with a weakness policy. Like this 167 is going to get doubled, so and it can't get burned because it's a fire type. So Entei is going to be very strong, and Urshifu is kind of there to help clean up in the end games, and it can also activate the weakness policy with Aqua Jet, which is pretty strong into Entei, and it just does a lot of damage in the back as well. Pairs well with the core that we have. So we'll play one game with this team, but this is just an example of how I team build. I think this could be a pretty interesting one as we come up against a Colossal and Dragon, or a Dragonite Colossal team. So Dragonite also gets Aqua Jet, but it's also a double Sun with Torkoal and Ninetales, which is fairly interesting, and a Healer Blissey. I think Entei's looks okay here, but I also think Landorus has to be led just to respect the Colossal Dragonite. Either Landorus or Rillaboom needs to be led here, and I think I want to lead Landorus because it's better into the Sun core as well. If they lead, say, Torkoal, Porygon 2, Landorus is much better against that. Let's see. I could also bring Dragapult up front. I don't think that's a bad option at all. I also like bringing Nihilego. I also like Urshifu. I think Urshifu could be okay here. I like bringing Entei because it can really benefit from the Sun, and if I want to U-turn out, I can just protect the first turn with Entei and U-turn with Landorus. I think I want to bring Dragapult here in the back to activate the Entei's weakness policy, and I think Nihilego actually looks really strong as a Dynamax option if I can get rid of the Colossal early. So they bring Torkoal Porygon 2, which is fine. This is kind of why I led what I led, because now I can just Earthquake and protect turn 1. I could also use turn out into Dragapult, but I don't think this is a bad option at all. I think Earthquaking and protecting is pretty safe here. Because the next turn I can switch out Landorus T into Dragapult, and I can go for like a Stomping Tantrum with Entei. The ally switch, which does not matter to me, I'm going for Earthquake anyway, and we do a lot of damage to Torkoal. And Torkoal goes for Earth Power into Entei. So that's a really good first turn for us. I could Earthquake again and switch into Dragapult. I would do some damage to myself, but I think it's better to switch into Dragapult here and just go for... I could go for Extreme Speed, which is going to go through the ally switch. Or not go through the ally switch, but go before the ally switch. I think Stomping Tantrum's also a good shout, or Sacred Fire in this scenario. I'm going to go for Stomping Tantrum into the Torkoal. I think it's more likely that my opponent goes for Trick Room this turn, so I'm going to go for Stomping Tantrum. I do get the KO on Torkoal, which is incredible, and I go for Ice Beam into Dragapult, which is a really good read. Well, not necessarily a read on my opponent's part, because I guess I had Landorus in, but it does do some super effective damage to Dragapult, which is not ideal. But now I can go for my Surf and Dynamax my Entei. And I'm in a really good spot now because Max Strike on Extreme Speed still has 130 power. So I can Strike or just Flare into this Porygon 2. I think I can KO this Porygon 2 actually. So I'm going to do that. The ally switch, which is fine. So I'm going to hit the Dragonite instead. But this should still do a ton of damage to this Dragonite. It actually one-shots it. Even as it's a resisted hit. Dragonite, obviously a dragon type, but I KO it in one turn with my Max Flare. So here I can go for Max Quake, or I can go for Max Flare into P2. I think Max Quake is probably my best bet into the Porygon 2. My opponent obviously is counting on me surfing, but I'm going to Light Screen to block the damage from the Colossal as best as possible. And I think Max Quake into Porygon 2 looks really strong here. Especially if they go for Ally Switch, which they don't. I get a good chunk of damage into the Porygon 2, and I have Light Screen and a special defense boost now. I do die to the Porygon 2's Ice Beam, but and Vocaloid does some damage to me, but not enough to really bother me that much, I don't think. Especially not in this endgame. Because now I can bring in the Nihilego, and then I can just kind of double. I can Power Gem the Porygon 2 and Max Quake the Colossal. And this is really, really strong for me because like I get the damage off regardless, and Nihilego behind Light Screen. And it's going to get a special defense boost as well. It's just really, really strong. Because it already has 151 special defense. And, yeah, it's just going to do a lot of damage. I actually get a special attack boost for KOing the Porygon 2 as well. So Nihilego is going to get a good chunk of damage there. And my Entei doesn't quite KO Colossal. So I activated its weakness policy, but I don't think that should matter in this end game because now I can just protect an earthquake and that should be the game. I could also power gem here with Nihilego, but yeah, there's no real reason to do that. Protect an earthquake, kills Colossal, and we win our game with the team. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, it's just been a short one about about how I team build and how I go about it. I think this is a pretty interesting team, actually, this team that I built. I think Entei actually has some potential. I'm not sure about this Urshifu in the end. I do 100% want a water type in this spot, but I don't know if Urshifu is the one I want. So yeah, I think this team is really interesting. But yeah, this is how I kind of go about team building and how I just kind of conjure up ideas as I go. If you guys enjoyed this kind of content, then leave a like, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.